This is a story about a dandelion. And you are a dandelion, and so is everything that still believes it is a separate self, not connected to all, and in some ways living this little isolated but beautiful and temporary existence. Isn't that a gorgeous little dandelion? It's a time of year here where there are no dandelions going to seed, but the metaphor that I'm going to draw is about how enlightenment or awakening is the beginning point of that dandelion seeding fragility. So let me explain. Awakening isn't something you can get because the self that's going to awaken isn't this thing anymore. But this part of our self, our fictional self, our unreal self that imagines it's a separate self, is like the dandelion going to seed. And you know how when the dandelion is getting to that like wispy white puffball phase just before the wind blows it away? That's what happens to the sense of self as it is increasingly fragile, see-through, delicate, as it prepares for that shift or transition. And in a way they say, you know, the ego surrenders, but I'm not too sure it surrenders as much as grace just blows it away. In readiness, I mean, there's no amount of grace that's going to blow this baby to seed, right? So that there's nothing left. It's just not going to happen. It requires a readiness. And one of the ways that I think readiness happens, and you know, often it comes through trauma and discord and chaos and life-threatening illness and shock and loss and existential crisis. You know, Eckhart Tolle on a park bench and Byron Katie near suicidal. We hear so many stories about the crucible of hardship being the way that this dandelion goes to sort of that seed phase and it's ready to be dispersed so that the truth of who you are is self-evident. But I actually feel like there's another way, and I call it the portal of magic, or the non-ordinary reality portal. And I feel that that is my journey. I mean, I know looking back, I can see that this dandelion became the seed thing, the puffball, through an increasing intimacy with the non-ordinary, or seeing through reality and eventually seeing through the reality of the self itself. Now that sounds kind of vague and I know it's hard to explain, but I want to say that you are a dandelion and you're going to go to seed eventually, and grace is what's going to blow on you. It's the winds of grace, and then you're going to go whoosh, and this thing falls away, and what's left was what is left is what was there all along. What I'm suggesting is there's another way other than hardship, or I think hours of trying your best on a meditation cushion to like take the dandelion to seed. There's another way, and I call it magical portal, or the way of magic. And I don't mean abracadabra with a wand, and I don't mean that law of attraction to manifest what you want. I'm talking about something completely different. I'm talking about a kind of a dynamic receptivity to your own soul. And that's what I'm about these days, and I know I totally don't fit the non-dual paradigm. I don't fit any of the other models I've seen out there, but my own journey was that other alternate model. I had this awakening to the truth of who I am over a decade of softening and going to seed through the intimacy with my soul, through the connection point to the non-ordinary. It's really hard to explain how that journey works until you walk it. And I think a lot of you, if you're actually following my blog and following me, are already experiencing the softening and the going to seed and the ripening and readiness to have that self fall away or blow away or be blown away by grace. And you're probably experiencing it through the touch points of magic. And magic is not a thing you do. It's a state of what you are. You are wonderment. You are awesomely curious. You are spontaneous and flexible and available to reality as it unfolds. That is that state of magic. And when you're in it, you notice certain things, like synchronicity is an everyday occurrence. It's like you take it for granted. You begin to move into a state of flow magic. And that state precedes an awakening, or at least it did for me, and then it continues and it grows post-awakening. Awakening isn't a one-time event, it's a threshold. I've said this many times before. I'm not some saint on a mountaintop, and I don't know it all. All I know is that there is a massive shift of perception that occurred for me in 2011 and continues to inform how I see reality and myself or non-self. Thank you for listening. Okay, so the dandelion was a metaphor. I wish I could blow this baby because it's not time in the summer yet to make it go to seed. But you can see how you couldn't blow this to seed if you tried. It's just not ready. Sometimes I think that's what happens when people have awakenings that are really hard and they feel like they've just lost their mind. In some ways, it's like tearing the petals off, you know? Yeah. I prefer that you're all kind of soft and fluffy and you're a puffball, and then the beautiful wind of grace gently blows you away. Well, the you that you're not. Anyway, thanks for listening. That's kind of a long ramble, but I was just trying to make a point. Mwah. I'll see you next week.